Welcome to Inspirational Journeys, everyone. My name is Ann Harrison, and this week I have a very special guest who has written a book of stories, kind of like devotionals, if you will, called Listen, Sister. And she's going to tell us a little bit about that. But first, let me introduce Tess Scott. Welcome to the show, Tess.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks a lot for having me on.
So, and thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. It's a Lord help me. It's a pleasure having you. I know I'm struggling over here.
Okay.
So, yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself to the listener so I can stop struggling?
Well, that's just real. This is just real life that we're having, you and I here.
Right?
That's right. Well, my name is Tess Scott. I live in Sarnia, Ontario in Canada. I'm a mom of 8 boys, blended family of 8 boys and 9 grandchildren. I'm a wife and now an author, which still freaks me out to hear that because I'm really new at it. My first book is just coming up. It's just launching in June of 2022 right now. So yeah, my life has been a freak show, and I knew God wanted me to share some of my stories because there's some pretty amazing, well, there's a lot of amazing things that God's doing. But I wasn't sure what that would look like. And I didn't. So I said no, but God doesn't take no for an answer. So here we are today.
So I got a question. I didn't ask you this before we got started recording. What day does your book actually launch?
My book launched on June 14th.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So as you're hearing this, it'll be last week.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm recording this on June 8th, but it'll air on the 21st. So yeah, that is so cool. Another launch party to celebrate.
I know. It's so exciting. It's
Yay!
so exciting. It's kind of surreal to see like your name on, first it was weird on a book, and then like on websites, like on, Barnes and Noble or Kohl's or Chapters or, Amazon or whatever, all those places. And it's like, wow, that's me. Look at me. It's so weird. Like I'm nobody. What is going on?
Do
it's so
you
weird.
have a paperback of the book, since we are doing video and our faces are on camera this week? And I was able to post the audio for last week's on YouTube. But just our faces weren't on the camera. But since we are on camera today, do you have the book so you can show off to the viewers?
Yep, right here.
Cool. Yes, yeah. I love it when people can show off their books, because these are our book babies, and that's what makes it so. That's what makes it so surreal. So tell me, what inspired you to be a writer, first of all?
Well, I didn't really inspire to be a writer in life at all for all these years. But yeah, I know it's weird. It's weird, but like there's just so many things. Like my husband always says it's a freak show, but big things that happened, like my past is like, I say it's like a black sheep, turned Jesus girl. So I've been married 4 times. 4 times, sister. That is a lot of times.
Oh, girlfriend.
I know. Right. And so after I married Rick, so the number 3, and I'm living for the Lord now, and everything I think is going along tickety-boo, and I'm doing Bible studies, and I'm like, I'm in the Word, and he came to me and said, like, yeah, I don't love you anymore. And I mean, it was more complicated than that, but basically he was leaving. And so I begged God, like I spent a long time, weeks, with my face in the green carpet of my bedroom, just like bawling and begging God that my husband wouldn't leave, because, well, lots of reasons. I didn't want to do this again. I didn't want, my youngest son was 7 at the time. I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want the shame of it, being divorced again in the church and just everything. But yet God allowed it. He allowed my husband to leave. And then a year later, we got divorced because he still wasn't interested in reconciling and blah, blah. And then 3 years after our divorce, so we've been apart for over 4 years, he came back. Like we just, like, our relationship got reconciled. Obviously it's a longer story, and then we dated for months and months and worked through tons of stuff, and then got remarried.
Sometimes God does that. God has a purpose for that.
Yeah. It's just such a miracle. Right. And I don't want that to be lost. And then just 3 weeks after our wedding, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so then that whole journey and living through that, and like, I just felt like God saying to me, Tess, you have to share your story. Women need hope. women need hope. I just kept hearing women need hope. And I want you to share your story. And I didn't know if that meant like just talking to women in my small group, or maybe just a blog, or which, even though I don't know how to write or at the time, or like, what did that exactly look like? So I said no. So because I thought there are many people who are gifted, who are talented, who are, you know, better Christians, who know what they're doing. God used one of those girls, but that's not what God does. Right? God uses the people that he chooses to use. And I believe that God wanted to use me for this purpose, to show that, like, he's not using me despite my story. He's using me because of my story, because God uses those people.
Listen, sister, God takes a freak show and turns it into a masterpiece.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And I'm so thankful. So now, you know, once I kind of wrapped my head around it and was willing, and then, you know, I did a blog and started writing a little bit, and then, and here we are. And he's done, it's been God. It's like, there's some freedom in that, Anne, because I know it's 100% the strength of God and 0% Tess Scott over here. So, you know, when I don't always, I would like to say I always do this. When things are stressful and things aren't going well and not going the way I think they should go, and I'm stressed, I mean, I can rely on that. This is not about me. This is not me doing this. This is God, right? So there's some peace in that. Right.
It's not about us, not at all. And guys, for those of you listening, even though the book is for women, and it's like, you're not just writing a story, blah, blah, blah. No, this is a conversation. But for you guys out there, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the interview too, this conversation too, because I'm sure there's something out there for you. You can interpret it the way God needs you to interpret it. You know, just stay tuned, sit with us and hang out with us, and let God, you know, use our talk to fill your soul today. So let's talk about the book. It's called Listen, Sister, I'll let you tell the title because I will botch it.
Yeah, it's called Listen, Sister, Finding Hope in the Freak Show of Life.
And there you go, Finding Hope in the Freak Show of Life. Yeah. And that's the title of this podcast for this week too. So,
I have had a lot of men, actually, like more than I anticipated. Men say that they are reading or have read the book. I had one man say that he reads it in bed, one chapter or one story every night in bed with his wife. And, you know, sometimes they laugh and sometimes they cry, but they're always encouraged through it. So God uses whatever he chooses to encourage us, whether we're man or woman. And the stories, like, it's written to a woman because it's, you know, like, listen, sister, but it's truth, right? It's God's truth. Every story has God's truth, and that's good for all of us.
And it's funny because I've been reading a little bit in the evenings while listening to podcasts, yakking with my daughter, since she's here right now. And the last story I read was Chivalry, and that one, I mean, it had so much truth, but it was so funny about labels, how we label ourselves. But the first part of it was so funny. It's like, I'm from the country, so I totally get this.
Do you have chivalries where you are?
Not really. I mean, we've had festivals, but we don't have chivalries like you described, but I could see it.
Okay, so I'll explain what a chivalry is. When a couple gets married, and this happened more years ago, my kids won't let me do this to them now, but so when a couple gets married, sometime within usually the first month or two, a bunch of people in their family or their friends, like the wedding party, that sort of people, visit the newly married couple's house in the middle of the night when that couple is sleeping. Normally it's after you go to a dance or something, you're out with your friends, and then you say, hey, you know what we should do? Like, John and Steph aren't here, we should go visit them. And you go to their house, you knock on the door, make tons of honking and noise, because we're in the country, you know, and make them open the door. And then everybody goes in and they do all kinds of things to kind of ransack their house in good fun, like take all the labels off the cans, put salt in the sugar and sugar in the salt. We hid somebody all their underwear, took all of their silverware and put it in the freezer. Once they put their kitchen table and chairs up on the roof of their house.
Oh, geez.
Changed all their clocks an hour ahead, but every clock within a minute, so that they didn't see, and I don't know, saran wrap over the toilet seat, underneath the seat, and Vaseline on doorknobs. I don't know, just all kinds of fun. Yeah,
you make me think. No, we've never done that. But when I was a teenager and I went to the Georgia Lions Camp for the Blind, the last night before camp session ended, one time I was in the girls' cabin and we went to go toilet paper the rail of the guys' cabin and do all that. And then the guys just sprayed us all with just splashed paint and everything on us. And I was so mad because I had to go get in the shower and there was paint on my clothes I was going to wear the next day. And we just, but it was all in fun. And we'd change our beds and we'd move some of our beds together. All that stuff, and it was like all in fun, and pull pranks on each other when we were kids. We don't do it. I haven't witnessed the Chivalry now, but I didn't know that was what it was called. But you just made me think of our camp stuff. I think they even toilet papered the bell one time.
Fun times, right? But what happened later was like, I don't even remember how many weeks later, a month later or something, I guess. I was making butter tarts and he had put Tabasco must have been in the vanilla or something. And I didn't notice till I had just spent hours making these tarts. You're rolling out pastry and all that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm just cleaning up and I lick my finger and Tabasco. I was so mad. Like that was one of them. And the other thing that he did, and I can't remember which part I put in the story, but I was making stew and I thickened the stew with cornstarch and he had instead put baking powder and it exploded all over the kitchen.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
He is that's my brother. He's a brat. He also made Jell-O in my bathtub, I think. So there was lots of fun stuff. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, people use silly string and spray paint. I don't know if they do it now, but they used to. When newlyweds would get married, they'd spray silly string all over the cars and all that. Yeah, it was interesting. And I don't want to spoil the book too much, and I haven't quite finished it. But there are all kinds of interesting stories like that are real life stories. But there's a devotion and a Bible verse at the end of it. So I encourage you to go out there and read it. So let's talk about the writing process. Did you plan out each story, or did you just sit down and write it as God gave it to you? Or
so what I started doing, for some reason, I don't know, God gave me the stories, but sometimes I would think about a story, when I was in bed or when I'm driving or whatever. So I had like notes on my phone where I could Siri the note, like, excuse me. Don't forget, I don't know, the corn crib, or don't forget whatever the story is. And so I had sort of like a database of memories of stories, but I didn't always know like what the what the lesson was going to be, I guess, in the story until I was writing it. So I wrote I think I had about 40 of them when I did my book proposal to Morgan James. And again, I wasn't a writer. So, but I was just being obedient. I feel like when God asks you to do something, you just do that thing. You just do the next thing. Like I'm still faking it over here. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing one day at a time, and God's opening the doors and doing the rest. And so, I knew, okay, send a book proposal. So I bought a book, How to Write a Book Proposal. And then I did that. And then I sent it to Morgan James, and a month later, I got an approval, like that they wanted me to do the book. So I needed to do, 75 more stories over the summer. And I had 3 or 4 months to do it. So I wrote every day out in the sun because I love being warm because I'm in Canada and it's rare. But my schedule is sort of like, I'm a very regimented person. Like it's that side of my brain that works. Mm-hmm. So, if I say to myself, okay, I'm writing every day from 8 till 2, then I will do that. Now, if I miss a day, I'm really messed up and I might quit forever, but I will go out there and sit there and do it. So I had like a database of stories and I just like sat down and wrote them out. And by the end of writing the story, because they're all short, you know, I feel like I had what the lesson was.
Yeah. So did you have a specific order that you put the stories in, or was it just a hodgepodge of stories put together in the book?
Yeah, it's just a hodgepodge of stories put together. Because some are about my life growing up as a kid, you know, being raised out in the country with 3 brothers and having to do all the work because I'm the only girl. And then some are like me raising kids, or my, you know, breast cancer surgery, or like all like, so there's all different times of my life, but all the stories are painfully true and awkward, and they're all real. I didn't put them in any specific order because I thought it was kind of more fun to read that way. I did have like my pastor always reads everything that I write before anyone else reads it, because I want to make sure I'm not leading people in the wrong direction. So I didn't go to Bible school. And so he was gracious that way. And I had an editor that was amazing. And they caught a couple of things like in order, like I didn't talk about that my son is adopted, but I talked about that he has fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. So, you know, it was important to first say that he was adopted. So I did not drink when I was pregnant. I just want to say that. So little things like that I didn't really catch in the order. So someone was watching anyways. I'll just say that someone was watching and making sure the order made sense. But yeah. I didn't do it like in the order of my life or anything like that.
Yeah, because I saw 3 stories about your son TJ.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And then it goes, and then you go off with a different story, and that's, you know, that makes it interesting. It's like, do I stop here? I'm gonna read this one. Do I stop here? And then I end up reading one more and one more and one more.
That's what people tell me.
Yeah.
And I like to encourage young moms that are like, you know, busy with kids running around. And, you know, I remember the freak show when we had all the kids home, and at one time 7 at a time, like, because by the time the eighth one was born, number 1 was out of the house. He was 18. So, but 7 was enough, 5 teenage boys. But like sometimes when your kids are small, you don't have time to sit and read a book. But this book, the chapters are just a couple minutes long. So you can read them in the bathroom while your kids are knocking at the bathroom door, trying to bug you. I mean, just lock the door, read one story, be encouraged for the day. You're reading truth. There's a verse, and, you know, and the day's going to be better. So It doesn't take it's not a big commitment, and you can skip around. You don't even have to read them in order.
Well, I'm reading them in order just because that's just the way I do things. Anyway.
Like all sensible people.
Except if I, you know, am reading a book about, you know, writing children's fiction and I need to skip to something, then I'll bookmark it and go back to it and then come back and read the rest. Anyway, so do you have any tips or takeaways that you want to leave the listeners with?
In what regard? Like about writing or
writing or, well, I was going to say writing because most of my audience is primarily writers, but
writers. Yeah. For me, it works to be organized. For me, it works to have goals. And because like I said, I can say my goal is to write every day from 8 till 2, Monday to Friday. And I'm good to stick to that. But knowing that, you know what, there's going to be a day I'm going to screw up. So don't just throw in the towel. Right. I tend to do that, but I've learned that in my personality that I have to say, okay, it doesn't have to be perfection, right? Get your own system. So my system is that I have a file of ideas. I have an idea file going all the time. I have the second book already started right now. And I have an idea file. Then I have a rough copy because I like writing on paper. That's just how my brain thinks. And I like writing outside. So summer's going to be good. And then I do a rough copy. And then my third thing is I type it on the computer, spell check, Grammarly, all that. And those are sort of my 3 kind of steps that work for me. Everybody's different. Lots of, like, most people I talk to only type on the computer and don't write on paper, but also I'm old. So,
well,
and
if I could see it, I'd probably do handwriting, but I hate handwriting myself. I will write notes on my phone and then email them to myself. And then I'll, put stuff in a Word document. But, but there are a lot of people who love Google Docs. So are you working on anything new? Has God given you a new book to?
I am. Yep. I have a second book started, and I think it's going to be called something like Girlfriend, Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is. Because every time I talk to people on a podcast or on a stage or wherever, I say something and then it comes back to me like, Tess, you said that. Now you have to do it. You ever have that?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
You said you were going to do it. Now you got to get it done.
Now you have to do it. You've been telling everybody else to do it, so I don't know if that's really what it's going to be called, but probably something similar. I think it's probably going to be a similar type of book. I have quite a few stories, so I'm working on it. Yeah,
that is amazing. So where can people find you online?
Well, people can go to my website, which is tessscott.com. And from there, there's links for my Facebook. It's called Listen Sister Encouragement, or Instagram. I can come and speak. I've been speaking at churches in front of women and just encouraging women that way. There's links to the book. You can get the book at anywhere books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Kohl's. I saw it at walmart.com.
I did too. I saw you gave me that link and I'm like, wow.
I know, that freaked me out when I saw it. I'm like, what? So yesterday I saw it for the very first time at a bookstore on the shelf at the mall. And because when we're recording this, it actually doesn't actually release, like launch for 4 more days, but who's counting?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
But
it's out there.
Yeah. So, but I was at the mall, and I went in the bookstore, of course, because I'm going to do a book signing there in a couple of weeks. So I went in the bookstore and I'm like, what? Look at it. It's on the shelf. This is freaking crazy. And then I told the guy beside me who doesn't know me and did not care, like, look at this. I wrote this book. And I opened the back and show him a picture of me in the back of the book. And he's like, okay, lady. Get a grip, he doesn't eat. I said, anyways.
You know what? The booksellers aren't, I don't think they're as quite as excited as the authors are.
Oh, it wasn't a bookseller. It was just a random man in the bookstore.
Oh, okay. He's like, yeah, whatever. It wasn't whatever.
He's looking at books about, I don't know, something boy man.
Right. Yeah. But I just want to say as you're hearing this, happy belated birthday to Listen Sister Hope in the Freakshow of Life. Yes, we are launching. This is another belated launch party. I've had 3 launch parties this month, which is absolutely cool. First of all, it was A Study in Terminal by Carolina Berg, which aired on June 7th. And then last week, we talked to Mary Alford with her book, Among the Innocent. This week, it's Listen Sister with Tess Scott. So congratulations to all you authors who've launched new books, whether it's your first or your 31st. For all of you launching books out there, I know there are a lot of book twins that I didn't get to, but happy book birthdays to all of you. And now I'm going to ask you, Tess, as we close, do you have a Bible verse you want to share today?
There's so many verses.
I know, right?
I know. I don't know. I'm trying to think of one that I especially love. I always want to encourage people. So, okay, this is a good one. 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. Because I think God has given me that purpose, that mission to encourage women. So I hope that that's what my book does. And I hope that's what I do.
Wow. So would you like to close us out in prayer?
Sure. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together with Anne and with all the listeners and just come before you. Thank you for opening doors everywhere so that we can share our faith with other people. God, I thank you that we can still do this in our countries right now. Thank you for that freedom. I pray for Anne that you will bless her in her ministry and as she touches lives over the airwaves. I pray for every single person listening to this podcast today that you will bless their boots right off. Amen.
In Jesus' precious name we pray, amen. So listen, everybody, brothers and sisters, all you listeners and viewers out there, go out there and listen, sister, Hope in the Freak Show of Life. And if I'm botching up the title, I do apologize for that, but go out there and get it. Read it. Amen. And put God's word in your hearts and souls today. And one more challenge that I like to close out with. We challenge you today to go out there and read to get inspired, write something inspiring, and share your creation with the world. For when you touch one life, you touch thousands out there. So thanks for joining us on Inspirational Journeys. And remember, folks, your story matters. Have a blessed day, everyone.